Talking for a while about how spooky, fun, and fascinating the Minneapolis trolley tours are, but now there's big news. The Candlelight Ghost Tours now begin at the historic Pillsbury Club, a beautifully restored haunted mansion once owned by Charles Pillsbury himself. Believe it or not, the interior is nearly 200 years older than the exterior. How is that possible? You'll have to come out and find out. Before or after your tour, stop by the on-site market featuring a curated collection of handmade goods, artisan crafts, and locally inspired treasures. Perfect for picking up a keepsake to remember your haunting adventure. You'll also find exclusive spooky merchandise from Tales of the Crypt and Elvira. Then climb aboard the climate-controlled trolley as we travel through Minneapolis's haunted hotspots, uncovering ghost stories that locals would rather keep buried. The mansion is restored to perfection, and there is no better way to spend an evening. Visit MinneapolisTrolleyTours.com for tickets and more information. Looking for something different for family fun, a night out with friends, or your next team-building event? Try the escape rooms at Lilliput. Step into the haunted mansion, race to find a cure in the bunker, or survive Night of the Wolf, all with just 60 minutes to escape. It's private, immersive, and perfect for groups of all kinds. Book your adventure now, spots fill fast. Visit lilliput.net and see if your team has what it takes to escape.
With your AM 950 weather, I'm Patrick Lilia. Tonight, partly cloudy with a low of 73, then Wednesday, hot sunshine with a high of 94. There's something for everybody at Cafe Latte in St. Paul, from award-winning soup, salad, sandwiches, and desserts to treats from the bakery made fresh daily and a pizza and wine bar. Cafe Latte is located on the corner of Grand Avenue and Victoria Street. Check them out at cafelatte.com. Portions of the following program may be pre-recorded.
The views expressed and the opinions given by the individual host, guest, random reptoid, or chupacabra may not necessarily reflect those of AM 950 Radio, its affiliates, or its sponsors. Now, it's time to step into the unknown. There are things people experience but never talk about. A shadow moving in the corner, flickering of the lights, a disembodied voice. We invite you to talk with us. Share your story, share your experience, because this isn't just your story. This is our story. This is GhostBox Radio with Greg Bakun.
And this is GhostBox Radio on AM 950, where every night we talk about the paranormal, ufology, Bigfoot, and so much more. My name is Greg Bakun. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. Kind of the way that I started this last week, I just want to quickly say, those who are watching our debrief of the remote viewing of the AM 950 building last night, we got a lot of comments about it. We got a lot of people who thought that was pretty cool. And it makes me start to wonder, do we need to have a debrief about the debrief? But we're not going to get that silly. But just make sure that if you want to, don't forget that EVP that we caught during the broadcast just last week. We played that last night. If you want to hear it again, it's at the 9:34 mark. Also, feel free to watch both of them. We're going to maybe put them together. Psychic medium Jennifer Lee. We're going to ask her to come back and do more. It's going to be great. So make sure that you check it out. We were very happy with how that went last night. And once again, I want to thank Andra and Adam for taking part last night and helping us with that. And it was great. It was absolutely great. But now we move away from spirits. Well, we're going to probably get back to them, but we're also going to go a different direction. We're going to talk UFOs. You know, I love talking UFOs. And we're going to have a great conversation tonight. Author Joe Shortridge, he wrote a book that is called The UFO Enigma, A Journey into World's Greatest Unsolved Mysteries. And I am really looking forward to this because I know that there's a lot of great information that you can get from the book. I actually have the book. I have the Kindle version. And this is going to be something that I think a lot of people are really going to enjoy. And right now, it is, as you all know, it's the best time to be talking about UFOs. There's a lot going on, and I think we're going to try to touch base on that as well. And so, Joe, welcome. First of all, welcome to GhostBox Radio.
Oh, finally. I'm so glad I'm on your show.
Well, now let's not get silly over here. But well, I'm so glad you're on my show. We were going to have you on back, I think, in June, and I just, there was so much going on, and I mean everyone, but I just I just literally couldn't move because there was so much happening that is like I can't give 100% to this, and Joe was kind enough to reschedule, and I really appreciate it. And we're talking about this fantastic book, and I just would like you to start off by explaining what this book is about. And once again, folks, the book is called The UFO Enigma: A Journey into the World's Greatest Unsolved Mystery. Joe, what is this book about?
Nothing really. I just
not much.
No, I've always been interested in UFOs, and me and my sister do the show, and I've learned so much over the years. And I just was like, I got all these different ideas and different stuff. I said, I got to put it into a book. So I put in my ideas. I did some research on it and kind of put it all together. And I guess that's what came out of it. I mean, it's like a mishmash of different things. I go into history of the UFO encounters, or alien, I should say. I go into some of the government stuff. I don't cover that much of it, but I do talk about it in there. I go into, the different types of aliens that we know of, which there's a lot more, but I'm usually like to stick to the top 4. But I just had all these ideas in my head, and I figured I'd put it in a book. So I started gathering more information. What I did was I figured out what the chapters were going to be called. I went in that route and then kind of plugged everything in. And this is what came out of it. And I hope it's a good book. I mean, I think it is because I wrote it.
Well, and I think it is too. Do you consider this as a really good starting point then, this book, for people who are interested in this? And it sounds like there is such a kind of a diversity within the book of different areas, but it also feels like a very good starting off point, because I do think that people are very interested, obviously, in UFOs, but I think people are also interested to some extent about, is the government involved in the history of sightings and stuff like that? Is this kind of would you think this is a good starting off point for people interested?
And that's what I really wanted to do. I did, because there's so much when you talk about UFOs, aliens, mysteries, stuff like that. It's just like the paranormal. A lot of people say, oh, you're a paranormal investigator, or you do paranormal work, or that. You have to remember the paranormal is not just ghosts. It is cryptids, aliens, and all that. And I think that out of all the stuff, like, I'd say aliens and UFOs are the most plausible. Now, I believe in ghosts. I know what happens in the afterlife and stuff like that. But coming back to the UFO thing and the alien thing, I think that's the most plausible because there's so many different star systems out there.
Yeah.
That, we know of, and I'll talk about that in a little bit, but going back to the book, I kind of gave a little bit of everything so that people think, well, wait a minute, I like this, so I think I'm going to dig into this more. Because if I would have done that where everything I put in the book, I dug into deeper, the book would be 3 inches thick.
Yeah.
Because there's so much information, but it's a good way to figure out, okay, I want to go down this route or that. And that's why in the beginning of the book, I talked about the history of it. You're talking cave paintings. You're talking, the Egyptians, even way before the Egyptians, like I said, there's cave paintings of different creatures that they've seen. Yeah. And, you look at the cave paintings. Let's talk about those for a second. You look at those and you think, well, wait a minute. Maybe they was just making where they're drawing a person, but they're putting big eyes and lines coming out of their heads and they're like just for artistic stuff. But they knew what they saw. They knew what they were drawing. If they saw an ox, they would draw an ox.
Mm-hmm.
Or if they saw a snake, they drew snakes. And I feel that they actually saw what they put in these cave paintings. And a good example of that is Native American. Now, Native Americans, they would put a lot of paintings on cliffs, on, all that, the different, my mind just went blank what they're called, but the paintings, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Well, they had one, and it's a person with a big head, big eyes, radiating, and they called those the ant people. And we would talk about them as insectoids. And they were basically, we talk about the ant people, and they didn't look like ants. Now, they did draw some that looked like that, but I think that they were more of the reptilian side. But when the Native Americans always talked about the ant people, those are the people that live below the earth. And they would come out and give them knowledge and teach them things. And they were more like the tall grays. They had the big eyes, the big heads, small mouths, stuff like that. So I think that they knew what they were drawing, because I've had people come up to me and say, "Oh no, they just did that for artistic stuff." It's like, I don't think so. I think it was more what they saw.
When you're talking about this, it's never really hit me before, and I'm sure it's gone to you. I mean, the drawings on caves, or that the natives done, it's probably the most truest and most honest form of that, because you're right, they're not trying to fool anybody. They're not trying, they accept what they're seeing in front of them, and not as, oh, this is so out of the world. They accept them as being from somewhere on the land around them in some area, whether how far away or not, who knows. But they don't think about outer space, or that they're not part of the earth, or even what the earth is. So it's a very honest depiction of what's happening.
Yeah. And I mean, you go out to like Arizona, out there by Sedona, and that you go up there and you see the glyphs on the walls, and they have their house built into the side of the cliffs, and they got the glyphs of the different paintings and stuff. And you'll see those ant people there, but yet you'll see drawings of the Native Americans next to them, and they're two different things.
Yeah. Something that is something. I mean, and I mean, that's exciting. And do you think then, because you said like the ant people, when you say that they were below the earth and had come up and give knowledge, is that native lore, or is that what we think that these insectoids, these ant people did?
Well, it was lore, and I think it was more of the fact that when you're talking about Native Americans way back,
yeah,
they didn't have a writing system. Everything was by mouth. And in order to tell the stories of the ancestors, you had to learn those word for word. It's not like the telephone game where you tell someone something and they tell something and they tell something and it's wrong. They weren't like that. Whatever they said as their stories, they said these stories because they didn't have anything wrote down. And the oral traditions were that they would have to do that word for word and not change a thing. And I think that's the same way with those glyphs, is they were doing that so that they could teach the future generations about their ancestors and about how their ancestors learned from the quote unquote ant people.
Just kind of going the same vein here. Where do you land with the idea of, aliens trying to progress our culture, like such as like, watching shows like Ancient Aliens and stuff. I mean, pretty much Ancient Aliens pretty much gives everything that we've ever accomplished over to the aliens, which I don't quite buy into. But do you think that they made a considerable contribution to the direction humanity went?
I think so. And the reason I say that is because the different types of and I'll call them aliens, but they could be, from our planet, just different time, stuff like that. Who knows?
Sure.
But you had the different types. Okay. So you had the insectoids, which they called the ant people, which don't look like the reptilians. The reptilians looked more like the praying mantis.
Mm-hmm.
And they were able to, what they call glamour people, where they would look like us and be able to change. And whether that's true or not, I don't know, but I've heard so many stories where, I was at a convention and one of the top researchers came up to me and she said, yeah, there's an reptilian here. And I'm like, show me which one. And they won't let me, but they had different types. There were different types of aliens. You had, of course, the Greys, the reptilians, you had the Nordics, which looked just like us, and then the insectoids. And I think that the insectoids were more of a race that taught compared to the reptilians, which are more of like a violent, type where they want to take over things.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they say that they've been fighting for thousands of years. I don't know. I've never seen two of them fighting, but I've heard stories, but, and that goes back to that, where I think that different races of aliens want to teach humanity to be better. And that's where you get stories like the little people from Mew, or different types of people like coming down, the Indians talk, I want to say Mihara, but that's not right. But the ships that the Indian culture say come down,
Mm-hmm.
and they pass on the knowledge and teach people. I think, in my opinion, it's the same race, just coming down and being explained in different ways, because the different religions have different ideas of what that is.
I want to take a break here in a second, but it just prompts me another question, and I use the word carefully when I use the word primitive, because I think that's kind of unfair in a sense. But if we're talking about cultures that are still around the world that are haven't advanced the way that we have, do you think that some of these aliens are maybe visiting more, and not to necessarily guide, but to just pass off some knowledge, because some of these other tribes or civilizations that are less advanced, they're not going to necessarily, they're not going to really go any further with it. It's not like they're not aware of aliens. Do you think that they might show up more in some of those types of situations?
They might, but if you think about this too, is if they're teaching that much knowledge and changing so much, maybe those other, places don't have this resources like we do, where we can build stuff like, the resistors and that exploded back in what, the 40s and 50s.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they just don't have the resources to build the stuff, but they're still trying to pass on that knowledge to them. And maybe they're passing on knowledge that's good for them, like how to hunt better, how to gather resources better, because they're not going to go in there. And let's talk about that tribe that is so remote that when someone tried to fly over with the plane, it ended up having hundreds of arrows in it because they thought it was evil.
Yeah.
And they also don't want outsiders in their area. Well, they're not going to go in and teach them how to build factories and that. They're going to teach them how to build the stuff that they use. So maybe that's something. I don't know.
I don't know. And, it also makes me wonder too, like there's a point that they stop being so visual in terms of being around, and people can see them and make paintings about them. Like, and you got to wonder what that stopping point was. You know what I mean? Where there's some point in history where these aliens are like, we can't be seen anymore by by, and I wonder what that is. I don't know. I don't think you would have the answer either, but I find that interesting.
It's almost like Star Trek, the Prime Directive. You don't want to mess with them, you know? But also, we don't know how their time zones are.
True.
Let's say they come here 1,000 years ago and they do stuff and they're like, okay, we're going to go back to Zeta Reticuli or wherever. We're going to go back and then we're going to come back. Well, so much time passes while they're not here. That's the times we're like, well, they're not here teaching, but yet they come back and they're like, okay, that's another 500 years. They're here again. And then they leave.
So possibly what if I'm getting what you're saying correctly, is like there's enough time that passed and we're all thinking that there's going to be a disclosure day or something. And, just roughly saying, and maybe that's kind of what it is, where they're coming back to do the next installment of the teaching.
Yeah. And maybe just they can only spend so much time here.
Yeah.
Maybe they're health-wise, they can't stay that long or something like that. We don't know. Maybe, and that goes into like the Fermi paradox, which we'll talk about later, but maybe they came from a planet that doesn't have much gravity and they can't really handle our gravity that long or something. We don't know.
Yeah. That's so true. So what a great conversation. I need to get a break in here.
All right.
When we come back, we're going to continue talking about Joe's book, The UFO Enigma. Folks, I see that you're putting some comments in. If you have questions for Joe about aliens or whatever else, feel free to put them in. We'll get to them. Don't go anywhere. You're listening to GhostBox Radio on AM 950. Moonstone Minneapolis is a queer-owned, community-focused gift shop in South Minneapolis centered on curiosity, connection, and self-discovery. Explore astrology, tarot, crystals, herbs, mindfulness, and spiritual practices in a welcoming environment for all backgrounds and experience levels. Located at 3304 East Lake Street in Minneapolis, Moonstone Minneapolis also hosts makers markets, classes, and community events. Learn more at moonstoneMPLS.com and discover a welcoming place to explore with curiosity and respect. Greg Bakun here. It's nice to get out of the Twin Cities and take some travel excursion to some great locations. Minnesota has so much to offer, which is why I love traveling down to Wabasha and staying at the historic Anderson House Hotel. Opened in 1856, this beautiful hotel offers comfortable accommodations, has a delicious restaurant, and even a speakeasy in the basement to unwind with a drink. Located next to the Mississippi River and on Main Street, there is a lot of sightseeing and shopping to do too. To get more information, go to theandersonhousehotel.com. Greg Bakun here. Like you, I love good, fresh, delicious food. So I want to tell you about this treasure in Roseville called Maverick's Real Roast Beef. Maverick's has the best roast beef sandwiches I've ever had. Made fresh every order. Add fries or onion rings dropped in the fryer when ordered, and you have a winning combination. Maverick's Real Roast Beef has a lot more than roast beef, so check out their website, mavericksbeef.com, or check out their restaurant on Lexington in Roseville. Greg Bakun here. I've been talking for a while about how spooky, fun, and fascinating the Minneapolis trolley tours are, but now there's big news. The Candlelight Ghost Tours now begin at the historic Pillsbury Club, a beautifully restored haunted mansion once owned by Charles Pillsbury himself. Believe it or not, the interior is nearly 200 years older than the exterior. How is that possible? You'll have to come out and find out. Before or after your tour, stop by the on-site market featuring a curated collection of handmade goods, artisan crafts, and locally inspired treasures. Perfect for picking up a keepsake to remember your haunting adventure. You'll also find exclusive spooky merchandise from Tales of the Crypt and Elvira. Then, climb aboard the climate-controlled trolley as we travel through Minneapolis' haunted hotspots, uncovering ghost stories that locals would rather keep buried. The mansion is restored to perfection, and there is no better way to spend an evening. Visit MinneapolisTrolleyTours.com for tickets and more information. Looking for something different for family fun, a night out with friends, or your next team-building event? Try the escape rooms at Lilliput. Step into the haunted mansion, race to find a cure in the bunker, or survive Night of the Wolf, all with just 60 minutes to escape. It's private, immersive, and perfect for groups of all kinds. Book your adventure now, spots fill fast. Visit lilliput.net and see if your team has what it takes to escape. Now, if you haven't visited Moonstone, Minneapolis yet, I just want to let you know that there's a lot going on there, and it's going to be worth your time checking it out. Once again, you just need to go to on the web, moonstoneMPLS.com. There, you're going to be able to see everything they have. They ship out all their goods as well. They have a lot of crystals and wonderful things that you could take a look at, but they have a lot of stuff going on in the store as well. And I just want to let you know that throughout July, they had what's called the Intro Topic Series. So 1 week, session 1 was Tarot Introduction, Exploration. The second session was Decoding Signs from Animals. Third session was Divination using Pendulums. We talked about that last week. And then on July 30th, the session 4, Energy Work for Protection. This is all very important stuff, and go check out Moonstone Minneapolis. First of all, they are a local business, and we always support the local businesses. So please consider doing so. Go to moonstoneMPLS.com to get more information. We are having quite the interesting conversation tonight. We are talking with author Joe Shortridge, and we're talking about his newest book, a more recent book, the UFO Enigma, A Journey into the World's Greatest Unsolved Mystery. We're talking about UFOs tonight. And I also want to just quickly say, we always recommend that you going to the local bookstores to try to order these books, because we want to make sure that we're keeping, like, go to Moonstone, see if they can order it for you. But also, if you're feeling like you want to help out GhostBox Radio, please consider going to ghostboxradio.com, GhostBox Book Club, where we have an Amazon affiliated link that goes and really helps the show as well. But whichever way you do it, just get the book. That's all I'm going to say about it. And we have a couple comments. Let's see here. Joshua says, I witnessed a massive UFO off the west coast of Florida and felt they were communicating with me in the early 1990s. Just thought I'd share interesting conversation. I just thought I'd share that we have this massive UFO off the coast. Anyway, go back to your show, like, okay.
Yeah, I was just interested, but I came back because GhostBox Radio wasn't available up in the ship.
Yeah, right, exactly. They're not that evolved, I guess. And then Don Marie asked the question, Joe, do you think aliens helped build the pyramids?
That's interesting. I think some days I think it and some days I don't. I'm like, I don't know. And I firmly believe that there were civilizations here before us. Okay. And when I say that, I'm talking thousands and thousands and thousands of years ago. Like, the earth has changed so much. And I'm thinking, if we stopped right now, if we all, there was that show after people, nature would take over, and within 1,000 years, you wouldn't be able to tell the cities. Within, a million years, we wouldn't know that we're even here. And I think that the pyramids and structures like that, I think that they were built by the previous civilization. Because a lot of times, even with the mounds, I do a lot of stuff with Native American mounds and giants and stuff. And even Native Americans always said, no, our ancestors built those. They were here before us. And some days I think, well, maybe the aliens helped. And then some days I don't. I don't know. It's one of them things where there's so many different ways that those could have been built. Yeah. And there's so many different theories, from water up the side with balloons and, ramps that have to be 5 miles long just to get up to the top, or giants taking a hand by hand and putting up, or, there's so many different ways because we don't know. And the thing is, they say that, oh, they were tombs. They were not tombs. I think that they're energy, built like energy plants, because the tombs, if they were built by the Egyptians, there would be hieroglyphs throughout the whole things, and there's not. Now, there is a one that says SETI. I think it was SETI. Don't quote me on that. I'm pretty sure it's SETI, but they think that was put in there like graffiti.
Oh,
You know what I mean?
okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Because there's no other records of them being built. There's no records of how they are built. You know, there's a lot of people that think that they have different ideas. And there's been ideas on different TV shows that have worked, but we still don't know. So I go back and forth with that because you got to have enough knowledge to make them as perfect as you did. I mean, they're true north. The line lines up perfect. The angles of them and the mathematics match for the size of the earth to that. There's, a lot of people think that they're 4-sided. They're not. They're 8-sided. And then even going in with the mounds. Now, I know we're not going to talk about the mounds and stuff, but a good example is the Octagon Mound in Newark, Ohio. If you took the Great Pyramid and put it in the Octagon Mound, it would fit perfectly, each corner.
Wow.
Even the angle of it is the exact angle of the entrance. So, there had to be some kind of knowledge that was given to them so beyond what they knew.
Yeah.
That it's almost like the aliens come down and gave them the knowledge how to build the thing. So I don't know. Like I said, I go back and forth.
That's a whole other show right there.
Oh.
What you're just saying about that's a whole other.
You'll be able to shut me up.
I mean, it's just amazing because that it's like a whole. What you're basically saying is a whole period of time that's basically been erased to us, and that we this whatever was there was super advanced actually, and now we had to kind of start over.
Yeah, because we're finding things on Earth that, for example, we find on Mars. You've heard of the giant face on Mars. Yeah. They found one here on the Earth. And I think, I should have had it up here for you, but I don't remember where it's at, but they found the same thing, except it was wore away so much. So what they did was they time lapsed it to show that the wear pattern on it over so many years, it's the same thing. They found pyramids on Mars, obelisks, stuff like that. So who knows what the Earth looked like that far back?
And who knows what the Earth looked like that far back? And were we just a relay station along with other planets in the solar system?
Yeah. Or when Mars had their nuclear war, did the Martians come here and start making our civilization? Which is a whole other story and a whole other show.
And we're going to have to do a 6-hour episode of GhostBox just to kind of just to scratch the surface on it. Don, when we were talking about the pyramids 20 minutes ago, she's like, yes, I totally agree. Joshua says, true story about his UFO thing. Joshua, just know I wasn't making fun of that part of it. It's just like, you're just so nonchalant about it. Yeah, I saw one. They communicated with me. And anyway, how's your day? It's like, no, as an experiencer myself, I am not going to take that away from you at all. Beth says, I've been to those mounds in New York. My family's from there. Oh, very interesting.
I go there all the time.
Yeah. That is great. Real fast, since we're talking about subjects that we kind of go back and forth on. When I go back and forth on, I'm just curious where you land on this. You don't have to answer if you don't want to.
No.
The moon landing. Do you think that's real?
Yes, I do. It's almost like it'd be easier to do it than to fake it. But here's where I stand on it. I believe that it happened because you can, if you got a powerful enough telescope, you can see the landing sites and the footprints and everything. But I think that they covered up so much because, a good example, when they landed on the moon, one of the things that they said was, there's Santa Clauses here. I see a Santa Claus. Stuff like that. They had certain terms for things that they can't explain. And I think that they already knew that there was somebody up there already, because I do know that when they're landing on the moon, what was it was Armstrong said, they're looking at us. They're over there on the ridge. They're huge.
I remember that. It's
Stuff like
giving me
that.
chills,
And then
actually.
when they came back, if you look at the press conference, look how devastated they were. It didn't
Yeah.
look like they just came back from the moon. If you went and you stepped on the moon, you would come back and you would be partying your butt off. You would be so happy and you'd want to tell everybody, look what I did. But they were all devastated. So did they see something that broke their world? Did they see the ships up there? Did they see the giant beings standing there watching them? Did they see the Santa Clauses, which were their code words?
Yeah.
You know, and
I mean,
that's the case. They come back, they can't say that they saw aliens up there. And I think that by looking at their demeanor, oh man, they were devastated.
and they had to carry that with them for, I mean, Len is still alive. It had to carry it with them forever, for the rest of their lives.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's eerie. And I do remember hearing about was it Armstrong saying that they're looking at us.
Yeah. They had a medical channel that they would talk on that wouldn't go over the broadcast. And if we only could hear the whole story, it would, you know.
Well, and let alone the fact that you know, a number of the tapes and stuff are missing.
Yeah.
You know, they went missing right away.
Yeah, they said that they just recorded over them.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like you have all this data from the moon landing, the first moon landing that humans ever stepped foot on the moon, and you just covered it over like, you know, your wedding videos when you got the Super Bowl playing or something.
There was no outrage. I mean, there's outrage amongst us people, but there isn't. I mean, you would think that there'd actually be like committees to look into how is this possible that you got rid of such important information, and it just was like, yeah, we don't have any more. It's like Joshua with his UFO in Florida. Yeah, I saw a UFO. What about it? You know,
I wish I could have an encounter. I know my dad had one, and he when as a kid, you know, back then though I wasn't that interested in it. It's like, yeah, dad, whatever. You know, now I look back like, why didn't I sit and listen? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And but he had his encounter. But the closest I've ever had to an encounter is we were up in Michigan at a UFO conference, and it's beautiful up there. The sky, I mean, if you ever get a chance to go to a dark park and just sit in a chair and stare at the sky, do it. But a friend of ours had some military grade night vision goggles, and he put them on me because he was like, here, let me put them on your, you know, and he's like, don't look at the moon. And I'm like, okay, because they're so sensitive. I looked up. And I know what I mean, I can see satellites flying over and stuff. Cause if you see one, you know, okay, here comes another, you know, but there was stuff up there moving in every direction, stopping, turning, you know, stuff like that. I don't know if it was ice crystals. I don't know, but usually ice crystals don't stop, and space junk does not stop and then go in a different direction or speed up and slow down. But I saw all these little white dots just going all over the place up there. So if you ever get a chance to go to a dark park or wherever and just lay in your chair, I call it my star watching chair. It's an outside recliner type deal thing. And if you ever get a chance to put on night vision goggles, just lay there and let your eyes acclimate to them, and you won't believe what you'll see.
Yeah. No, well, and so it reminds me, I was out in Hudson, Wisconsin. A friend of mine lives out there, and that's where we experienced our CE5, but on a different time. We're looking up and it's that beautiful clear sky. And it was like, boy, you know, I wonder if there's, you know, we're looking to see if we could see something. All of a sudden we see up in the sky is like there's a suction in space where it looks like things are kind of moving in. And a ship would come out of nowhere and drop out and fly away. Another one and it would continually do so. And we noticed probably we stopped counting at about 78.
Okay.
And about 6 months later, somebody drew a picture of what they saw, which was separate. Like they didn't hear our story, but seeing it, that's what we saw, and here it is.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I always keep this on hand because this is just absolutely amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And it would just go through that suction. It looked like a suction, at least, come out. And it kind of always makes me wonder, I mean, in my mind, there's no way anyone can get here to Earth unless it's some kind of portal or something.
Yeah.
Or they have some, even if they're on another planet in the solar system, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So I don't know, but it was so interesting.
A controlled wormhole or a controlled portal, or, it's got to be controlled because, like they have found wormholes that they're tiny. I mean, but they're so unpredictable, but you have to have something where you go into it and you go, okay, I want to go to Earth. So let's click in Earth and boom, you're there. Because, I mean, think about it. Think about like Proxima Centauri. It's the closest star to us. It's 4 light years away. And you think, 4 light years, that's nothing. Yeah, it is. I mean, if at our speed right now, if we had a jet and at the speed we can go now, it would take like 17,000 years to get there. Yeah. So there's got to be a way for them to traverse quicker. Whether it is something that can go, Mach 6 or whatever, not Mach 6, but, 6 times the speed of light or something.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and Matt, Matt is a quantum healer, and he says, do you think it was like an Einstein-Rosen bridge, which I exactly wormhole? Yes, I do. But he also is like, or more like an interdimensional portal. And that's the thing. I mean, we haven't even talked about the interdimensional side to this. And I know you cover it in your book.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's what's so fascinating about this, because, you could, in my opinion, you could ask me all these questions and my answer would be yes, because I think anything is possible here.
Yeah. It would almost have to. It would almost have to be, because in order for them to traverse the distances, and, like I said, I mentioned Proxima Centauri, that's just because that's the closest to us. But you go to Zeta Reticuli or stuff like that, the distances are so immense that our brains can't comprehend that. Just the distance from Earth to the moon. People don't realize that you can fit every planet in our solar system in between us. They don't realize how far it actually is.
Yeah. Yeah, that's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I love it all. So in other words, you'd say that it is impossible for Ralph Cramden to, send Alice to the moon. It wasn't going to happen.
I don't know how strong he is. I mean, he could have that punch.
I think we'll leave that right there. Why don't we go ahead, take our next break? There's a lot I want to get to, but we're going to have limited time. So when we get back, I'm going to ask Joe what he wants to talk about, because there's one thing I want to talk about. We may not get to it, but don't forget, put your questions in as well. Don't go anywhere. You're listening to GhostBox Radio on AM 950. Greg Bakun here. I've told you about the out-of-the-world roast beef sandwiches at Maverick's Real Roast Beef, but I haven't told you about their Philly steak sandwiches, turkey bacon avocado sandwich, BLT, crispy chicken, fish sandwiches, brisket, or pulled pork. Okay, you get the idea. They make a lot of delicious food to the same standard as their famous roast beef sandwiches, and now I'm starving. I'm going to go to Maverick's Real Roast Beef off Lexington and Roseville, and you need to go too. Check out their menu at mavericksbeef.com. Greg Bakun here. I've been talking for a while about how spooky, fun, and fascinating the Minneapolis trolley tours are, but now there's big news. The Candlelight Ghost Tours now begin at the historic Pillsbury Club, a beautifully restored haunted mansion once owned by Charles Pillsbury himself. Believe it or not, the interior is nearly 200 years older than the exterior. How is that possible? You'll have to come out and find out. Before or after your tour, stop by the on-site market featuring a curated collection of handmade goods, artisan crafts, and locally inspired treasures. Perfect for picking up a keepsake to remember your haunting adventure. You'll also find exclusive spooky merchandise from Tales of the Crypt and Elvira. Then, climb aboard the climate-controlled trolley as we travel through Minneapolis' haunted hotspots, uncovering ghost stories that locals would rather keep buried. The mansion is restored to perfection, and there is no better way to spend an evening. Visit MinneapolisTrolleyTours.com for tickets and more information. Moonstone Minneapolis is a queer-owned community-focused gift shop in South Minneapolis centered on curiosity, connection, and self-discovery. Explore astrology, tarot, crystals, herbs, mindfulness, and spiritual practices in a welcoming environment for all backgrounds and experience levels. Located at 3304 East Lake Street in Minneapolis, Moonstone Minneapolis also hosts makers markets, classes, and community events. Learn more at moonstoneMPLS.com and discover a welcoming place to explore with curiosity and respect. It's that time of year where the weather is getting nice and it's time to get out of the house for some family fun. Lily Putt is open for the season, and you know what that means. Lily Putt is known for its mini golf, go-karts, glow golf, jump pads, kiddie carts, gem mining, and even a new arcade. Lily Putt also has interactive and engaging escape rooms like the Haunted Mansion, the Bunker, or Night of the Wolf. Lily Putt is perfect for parties and group events. Stop by lilyputt.net for more information and hours of operation. Greg Bakun here. It's nice to get out of the Twin Cities and take some travel excursions to some great locations. Minnesota has so much to offer, which is why I love traveling down to Wabasha and staying at the historic Anderson House Hotel. Opened in 1856, this beautiful hotel offers comfortable accommodations, has a delicious restaurant, and even a speakeasy in the basement to unwind with a drink. Located next to the Mississippi River and on Main Street, there is a lot of sightseeing and shopping to do too. To get more information, go to theandersonhousehotel.com. And join me tomorrow on GhostBox Radio with Greg Bakun. We're going to continue this UFO vibe tomorrow, and we're going to have on guest author John Burroughs, and we're going to be talking about Project Rendlesham, Crossing the Threshold. This was a big thing in the UK back in 1980, and we're going to be talking about that tomorrow. I'm really looking forward to that as well. I just love these conversations, and I really appreciate getting on really smart people to talk about it. And Joe, sorry, I've got John in my mind. Joe, I really appreciate this conversation. This is so much fun to kind of just listen to what you think and hearing what people are saying in the comments about it. Once again, the book is called The UFO Enigma, A Journey into the World's Greatest Unsolved Mystery. You got to pick up this book. And once again, go to a local bookseller, see if they can order for you if they do not have it. Otherwise, feel free to go to ghostboxradio.com//Ghostbox Book Club. It helps Ghostbox Radio, but I'm sure go to Barnes & Nobles, Amazon, wherever. Just get the book. That's all I'm going to say, Joe. Just get the book, right?
Yeah. Get the damn book. Oh.
Get the damn book, for goodness sake. What do we have to do over here to get you to
get it through Ghostbox Book Club, because you're supporting the show.
Yeah, right.
It takes a lot to put these shows on. People don't realize. So just
it is. And thank you, because we haven't talked about your podcast. So we talked about it with your sister when she was on back in the day here, but let's talk about it again. 222 Paranormal Podcast. How are you all dropping episodes now weekly? Because I felt like, weren't you on? I don't remember if you were on coming back or on hiatus when I had your sister on. I don't remember.
Okay, so we're in our 11th season.
Yep.
500 and something shows. We have not missed 1 week. We have not copied an episode. So in other words, we didn't do the best of or anything like that. We did copy one show, and that was our discussion with Stanton Friedman. When the Roswell anniversary came up, we played that show, and that's the only show that we actually copied. We're doing a fresh show every week, and I've edited every single one of them. So that's.
I mean, part of me is like, congratulations. The other part is get a life. I don't know which was more prevalent.
Yeah. No, but Stanton Friedman. Oh my We were
I miss them.
We were at Michigan Paracon, which was, it's sort of like Michigan Paracon was our family reunion. All the TV shows, all the radio shows, podcasts, all that, all get together to go to Michigan Paracon. And it was like a family reunion, and then a Paracon happened. But we were there, and I look over and Stanton Freeman's sitting across from our booth. And I'm like, my sister, I'm like, oh, Stanton Freeman, oh my God, you know. So I went up to him. I'm like, hey, do you want to be on our show? Because we record at the events. I'm like, do you want to be on the show? When? I don't know, anytime that you want. Now. I'm like, okay. I'm thinking, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. So he comes over, and it was unbelievable. I just was in awe listening to him because, you know, he was the only civilian at Roswell.
Yeah.
And he's like the godfather of this. And we had him on the show, and like a month later, he passed away. It was, and to this day, people say, what's your best show? I still say that one.
He is, I mean, and the thing is he is such a gentleman. Like you know, all of us dressed like we just walked out of a garage sale, because we used to have a Paracon like that in Minnesota, in Mahnomen, Minnesota. And, but he would have his like bow tie on, and he would, you know, it's just such a, you know, he was particular as well. You kind of just, it illustrated that a little bit, but that was the charm as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And one of my first encounters with him, we were getting breakfast because, you know, you stay at the casino that it was at.
Yep.
Me and my sister are getting breakfast, and he comes up to me, and I'm like, Stanton Freeman's walking up to me. Is he going to say, hey, Joe, or anything like that? And he says, no, do you know where the coffee's at? I'm like, yeah, it's right over there. I'll bring you some.
We don't have, I mean, we don't have a lot of time left. Unfortunately, pretty quickly. We're about 5.5 minutes left.
Okay.
I wanted to ask and just kind of get a quick take. We talked about this before the show, but it's one of my favorite subjects as of late, is that thing of, because you're very much paranormal as far as like looking and trying to communicate with spirits and looking for ghosts, that sort of thing, you know, and being so involved and so doing so much more research for UFOs and stuff. How often do you think we're going into a location that we're thinking we're trying to reach out to spirit or a ghost or whatever, and we might actually be communicating with an alien?
I don't know. It's interesting because we don't know who we're talking to. We don't know if it's a trickster ghost saying it's a little kid or that, or if it is an alien, whether the alien is from another planet or another time. We don't know that either. Because, you know, like I mentioned, I'm big into time slips, but you know, it's very possible because the way that they communicate sometimes, like, you know, like the Greys, we didn't even get into talking about the Greys. That's a whole show by itself, but they communicate through ESP and stuff like that. And I think that the spirits do the same thing. So it could be where they come down and they're like, well, wait a minute, these people are trying to talk to spirits they can't see. So why don't we talk to them? Either learn or tell them different things. So it's possible because, like I said, we don't know. And the more we learn, the less we know.
Very much so. And another option that you had mentioned earlier, it could be us from the future.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I mean, we don't know.
That was my thoughts for years, is how do we know that some of these aliens that we're seeing are not time travel tourists?
Yeah.
They could be us from the future. Cause I like the Greys, I have a different thought on them now, but I always thought, well, maybe the Greys are just us because we don't, you know, maybe we don't need as much gravity in the future. Maybe it's darker, so our eyes get bigger. Maybe there's no sun, so our skin gets gray, you know, stuff like that. And then I really think that the Greys are more of like biological probes now that I look into them more. But it could be either. We don't know.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, why wouldn't somebody from, I'll say 2,000 years from now, if they have the ability to go back in time, why wouldn't they do tourism?
Isn't that something? Yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah.
That's a great point. And we have about 2 minutes left. And, I like the fact, too, of like, yeah, we don't know what happens on Earth between now and 2000 years. So it's very possible that the evolution of mankind, of lack of better term, humanity, how about that? Evolution of humanity is one of that. This is our future selves. I mean, I've always personally thought of Greys as foot soldiers in a sense, but I don't know.
Yeah.
We got to get you back on just to talk about Greys, because I'm fascinated by Greys.
Yeah.
I love them.
Hey, anytime. Just, message me, duct tape me to the chair and say, Joe, start talking. But you do have to shut me up.
How could people get a hold of you?
222 Paranormal Podcast. We're available anywhere you get your podcast from. I always try to push iHeartRadio just because it's easiest. But anywhere you get podcasts from, just type in 222 Paranormal Podcast. We do have a website, and I promise I'm going to update the website. I haven't done it in a while, but we do have a website. We do have a Facebook page. So basically just type in 222 and you'll find us.
Absolutely. And we have what's the latest episode that's dropping?
Oh, what is? We did an interview with a person that I had to edit the heck out of it. But I'm trying to think. I don't even remember because we have them so far in advance. But it's a good one.
I don't know anything about it apart from it's good. That's all.
I'm sorry, but yeah, I know that the interview 2 next weeks we have good interviews, and the later other shows than that. I know. Oh yeah, the Dark Watchers.
Okay,
we talk about the Dark Watchers of Big Sur, which are
awesome.
Like the hat people, shadow figures.
Absolutely, we got to get going. Folks, don't forget the UFO Enigma. Definitely get it. Joe Shortridge, thank you very much. Really appreciate it. Great conversation tonight.
There it is.
Awesome.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. We'll be back tomorrow. Everyone, have a good night.